How to completely change your mental routine in 2026. There's a quiet difference between people who enter a new year truly transformed and those who simply change the number on the calendar. That difference isn't found in big promises, endless goal lists, or short bursts of motivation. It lives somewhere much deeper and far less visible, the mental routine each person carries every single day, often without realizing it. Most people believe that changing their life starts with external actions, a new job, a new project, a new relationship, a new physical routine. But almost no one notices that all of these external changes fail when the mental routine stays the same. You can change your environment. You can change the people around you. You can change your circumstances. But if the way you think, react, and interpret reality remains unchanged, the outcome will remain the same. 2026 won't be any different from 2025 if you enter it with the same tired, reactive, conditioned mind. What truly separates an ordinary year from a transformative one isn't what happens outside of you, but what happens inside you every day, especially in the most automatic, repetitive, and unconscious moments. You've probably felt this already, the sense that days pass too quickly, that you're always busy yet rarely feel real progress, that you put in effort, but the results always seem smaller than they could be. This feeling doesn't come from a lack of ability. It comes from a mind running on autopilot, repeating the same thought patterns, emotional reactions, and internal narratives year after year. Here's an uncomfortable but liberating truth. You don't live life as it is, you live life as your mind has been trained to interpret it. And if that mind was trained in environments of pressure, comparison, fear, and constant urgency, it will turn every new year into just another repetition of the last. Completely changing your mental routine in 2026 doesn't mean becoming artificially positive, ignoring problems, or living in denial. It means consciously taking control of the mental patterns that currently operate without your permission. It means stopping being ruled by automatic thoughts and starting to deliberately choose how you relate to the world and to yourself. Most people start the year full of external expectations. They think about what they want to achieve, what they want to accomplish, what they want to prove. Very few stop to consider who they need to become internally in order to sustain those achievements. And that's exactly where everything falls apart a few months later. A mental routine is like the operating system of your life. It determines how you react to stress, how you deal with frustration, how you interpret failure, how you recognize opportunity, and most importantly, how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. If that internal dialogue is chaotic, critical, and anxious, it doesn't matter how many goals you write down, your behavior will eventually sabotage them. This is where the first major shift happens, when you realize that changing your mental routine isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's not something you do after life improves. It's something you do so that life can improve. In 2026, the world won't slow down. Demands won't decrease. Distractions won't disappear. If anything, mental pressure will continue to increase. And that's exactly why those who don't learn how to care for their own minds will feel increasingly overwhelmed, confused, and lost, even if they're capable and hardworking. Changing your mental routine begins with a silent decision to stop reacting to everything and start responding with awareness. That sounds simple, but it requires something very few people practice consistently: presence. Most people spend their entire day with their mind either in the past or in the future, replaying mistakes, anticipating problems, creating scenarios that may never happen. This consumes an enormous amount of mental energy, and by the time it's time to act, decide, or create, the mind is already exhausted. A healthy mental routine doesn't eliminate negative thoughts. It prevents them from taking control. It creates space between thought and reaction. And in that space, choice is born. Now notice something important. If you start your day already immersed in stimuli, demands, and comparison, you begin in a defensive state. A defensive mind doesn't build, it protects. And those who spend their lives protecting themselves end up avoiding risks, postponing decisions, and living below their potential. 2026 can be the year you break that cycle. But only if you change how you mentally begin, move through, and end your days. Here's something most people overlook. Your mental routine isn't shaped only by conscious thoughts, but by small, invisible habits that train your attention. What you consume right after waking up, what you allow into your mind before sleep, the type of content you absorb, the conversations you replay internally. All of this trains your brain even when you think you're not paying attention. If you spend years feeding your mind urgency, chaos, and comparison, you can't expect it to produce clarity, focus, and direction. The mind runs on repetition, not intention. And here comes the second major shift. Changing your mental routine doesn't require constant willpower. It requires the right environment. It means reducing stimuli that fragment you and increasing practices that integrate you. This starts with something simple but profound, consciously choosing which thoughts deserve your energy. Not every thought needs to be followed. Not every emotion needs to be amplified. Not every worrying needs to become a problem. Mentally strong people aren't those who never feel fear or doubt. They're the ones who don't build their identity around those temporary sensations. In 2026, you will feel fear. You will feel insecurity. You will feel tired. That's inevitable. The difference lies in how you interpret those sensations. You can see them as signs of incapacity or as signs of growth. The same emotion can paralyze or propel you, depending on the mental routine you've built. Here's a perspective that changes everything. Most people try to change specific thoughts. They fight their minds. They try to eliminate negative thinking. That only creates more internal conflict. What actually works is changing your relationship with your thoughts. When you understand that thoughts are mental events, not absolute truths, you gain freedom. You stop identifying with everything that passes through your mind. And that dramatically reduces unnecessary suffering. Imagine living an entire year without automatically believing every negative story your mind tells you. Imagine how many better decisions you'd make, how many opportunities you'd accept, how many internal battles you'd avoid. That's the real power of a conscious mental routine. Now we reach a crucial point. Completely changing your mental routine in 2026 requires consistency, not intensity. One highly focused day, followed by 10 chaotic ones, won't create transformation. Change happens when small mental choices are repeated daily. That means observing your patterns, noticing when your mind speeds up, identifying which triggers lead you into anxiety or procrastination, not to judge yourself, but to understand. Self-awareness isn't self-criticism, it's self-understanding. When you understand your patterns, you stop being controlled by them. You start anticipating reactions, interrupting cycles, choosing responses aligned with who you want to become. And here's the climax of this reflection. 2026 won't be defined by major external events. It will be defined by the mental state you sustain throughout most of your days. That state will influence your health, your relationships, your financial decisions, and your overall sense of purpose. If you live 2026 in a constant state of rush, comparison, and mental exhaustion, even achievements will feel empty. But if you live 2026 with clarity, presence, and internal direction, even challenges will become opportunities for growth. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become more aware of who you already are. Changing your mental routine doesn't mean controlling everything. It means accepting what can't be controlled and acting clearly on what can. It means stopping the fight against reality and starting to work with it. You may be realizing now that this change doesn't depend on external circumstances. Not on the government, not on the economy, not on the people around you. It depends on the daily decision to care for your mind as the most valuable asset you own, because that's exactly what it is. If you enter 2026 with the same mental routine as always, the outcome will be predictable. But if you enter with more awareness, more presence, and more internal responsibility, you'll be surprised at how much your life can change without the world needing to change first. And if this message resonated with you, if at any point you saw yourself in these words, write in the comments, 2026 begins in my mind. Subscribe to the channel to keep receiving content that strengthens your clarity, your inner discipline, and your ability to live with intention. And leave a like, because it helps this message reach people who are ready for real change, not just another round of New Year's promises. Remember, you don't change your life by changing the calendar. You change your life by changing the mind that walks through each day.